the message that we want to give is that what we'd like to say on behalf of the families and the Muslim community in general is that just as late as 1 p.m. today, the FBI chief, James Comey, came out and said that there was no sign that the alleged shooters belonged to a larger organization, like a larger organized terrorist group or terrorist cell. So I mean, they're trying to, or they have come up with some things where they're trying to say that they were inspired by some groups, but there hasn't been any clear smoking gun evidence that they were part of any particular cell or any group. They're pointing to things that they saw on Facebook under different account names. In the case of Tashfeen Malik, she supposedly had a Facebook account set up under a different name that they say visited some group that may have been had ties to, to more,
And as more information keeps coming out, we're going to be able to identify which facts are accurate and which facts are not. And that is the whole point of us meeting with the FBI. We've been in open communication with the agents of the FBI. We've been at their offices in Riverside. We were there for about 4 hours yesterday, and we'll be finishing up on Monday, hopefully, with some of the other family members. As more facts come out about the types of relationships that each individual family member had, we're going to be relating that to you guys as well.
Yeah. Well, what can you say right now? What do you know about what inspired them?
What we can say from our 4-hour interview, or the investigation that took place with the FBI yesterday, is that none of the family members had any idea that this was going to take place. They were totally shocked. That is, Raheen, Syra, and Iba, that is the brothers and sisters of the alleged shooter, had no idea, to the point where when they got word that there was an incident that had taken place, they were worried about the health and safety of Syed and Tashfeen because they had it was just, there's never been any evidence that either of the two alleged shooters were aggressive, had extremist views. They were totally shocked that this could take place, as shocked as anybody else was.
And the family members knew Tashfeen as a sister-in-law. That's what they knew her as. They had a basic relationship with her. It wasn't overly close, but it wasn't too distant. So the information that we have right now was shocking and as surprised as the family was when they found out the information that actually came out. There's no official determination of what the reason was when we actually were discussing everything with FBI yesterday. And they're still going through their facts and their diligence as we are as well.
If there's anything remarkable about the investigation that took place yesterday, it is that no ties could really be established, to the point of frustration on the part of the FBI. I mean, if the most evidence there is to any affiliation is a Facebook account under another person's name that supposedly just visited some site, then that's hardly anything at all. And throughout the whole process of the investigation yesterday, it got to the point where the FBI actually said, look, let us explain ourselves. We're trying to find evidence or information that could cause us to believe that Syed Farook was in some way affiliated with this incident, like something inspired him to be involved in this incident. But the problem we're having is that we're not finding any evidence of any behavior that would show us that this would be the alleged shooter. And so, why is that happening? And we were all like, well, we don't have any explanation for you other than that there is no evidence. None of the family knew of him as being extreme or aggressive or having any extreme religious views.
And I think what the media should also be cautious about is, just because he had a religion, that he was Muslim, it had nothing to do with these acts. Islam does not agree and does not support any type of actions that occur like this. It does not support killing. It does not support murder of innocent individuals. And the family would never support anything like this. And they're giving their hearts and their prayers and everything else that they can do to assist and the victims who lost their life that day as well.
What point are you trying to make? If the two of them indeed did not have any ties to these groups, but may have been sympathetic to these groups, what point do you want to make on
the media is not making these allegations, it's the FBI who is.
The FBI actually hasn't made... The media is leading with just assuming that this is a terrorist situation.
That the FBI is making is that there's an investigation into this as a possible terrorist
I think every investigation that the FBI does when it's involving a Muslim will involve some type of terrorist investigation for it.
I guess with the FBI, but we're just relaying the information that they're giving.
We're not.
So what do you think the motive is then for the shooting?
I mean, there was information about the fact that his coworkers has kind of made fun of him, for example, and his beard. He was a very isolated, introverted individual with really no friends that we could identify, like maybe one friend or no friends. And so I guess what we would say is that when an incident happens like this, when a Christian goes to shoot up a Planned Parenthood, or an extreme Catholic goes and bombs an abortion clinic, all the headlines don't say extremist, radical, Christian, Catholic, Christian, Catholic. Just like right now, every headline is saying Muslim and attaching Muslim to it. I just think there's a tendency to take a cookie-cutter version or paradigm of a terrorist type event and superimpose it on a situation just because that person is of Muslim belief or Muslim tradition. And I don't think we should jump to too many conclusions, in particular because we need to protect the Muslim community. And right now we're seeing a lot of infringements upon rights that are important to all of us. By this I mean we're talking about political candidates that could very likely be our next president who are saying things like we should register all Muslims and that mosques should be investigated and looked into, or that the families of terrorists should be killed without due process, or the latest thing that was said was that it was known that it was a terrorist act that was committed simply because the person had an Islamic last name. And I think any of us sitting here could say, look, if somebody said that they knew a heinous criminal act had been committed due to religion just because it was a person of a certain last name, and let's say it was alleged to be committed on behalf of Christians and you had a Christian last name, or was alleged to be committed on behalf of Jews and you had a Jewish last name, and your faith was constantly being attacked. I mean, I have so many Muslim friends and so many people that I work with that are Muslim, and every Muslim community around the world has been in a state of remorse and condemnation of these acts. No one supports it, just as I think no Christian or Catholic would say, oh yeah, that's a good Catholic that bombed that abortion clinic or shot up that Planned Parenthood. But it's not even, we can't even use that example because as of yet, like the FBI chief James Comey said, there has been no evidence that they've found yet, this is his words in the LA Times, as of 1 p.m. that they are linked to a larger organized terrorist group or terrorist cell. All there is, and this is much the frustration I think of the FBI and everyone, because we all want an answer. We all are angry. We're all frustrated. We're all sad. We want justice. But unfortunately, some things in life aren't as clear-cut as that. And all there is thus far is some nebulous thing that somebody looked at something on Facebook. I mean, any one of us may have looked at something on Facebook. It doesn't mean we believe in it. I've checked out a Britney Spears post, and I hate Britney Spears music. It doesn't mean that you condone whatever you look at or read or you fully believe.
Favorable attitudes expressed toward ISIS, what should people make of that?
What do you mean by favorable attitudes?
Well, the Nabi supposedly expressed sympathy towards ISIS. What should people make of that?
What evidence is there of that, I would ask? You know, what are you pointing to? In what ways did they express sympathy?
His exact quote is, the investigation so far has developed indications of radicalizations by the killers with potential inspiration by foreign terrorist organizations. He did say that there's no indication that he's part of a local cell or a bigger cell. These are his words.
He's trying to say it was inspired by. But what I've read so far, I mean, we're all learning because the investigation's ongoing. We're the attorneys for the family, not the investigators. So none of us have all the information right now. But from what I've read, all I've seen is that somebody looked at something on Facebook. There was another thing. There was another article I read that said that the FBI had investigated people who Syed Farook allegedly spoke to, but even those people that the FBI had investigated, nothing came up for any of those people. And this is the danger we're getting into. I mean,
can you explain this? Are you saying that you do not believe that there will be any connection to a foreign terror organization?
I think what we're saying is that we still have to wait for the investigation to be done before we make any type of determination.
Well, isn't that what the FBI is doing?
I don't think that's what
the FBI is saying?
I think that the reports that have been coming out now is that it's linked to a terrorist group or some type of...
They're investigating.
They're investigating it, but until the investigation is done, there cannot be made any type of determination of if there was a group, if there was a connection to anybody. And the moment that we start doing that
we should not be pursuing these developments as they emerge, because the FBI is going through the process, and it is a process.
Yes.
And as they get information and as they find out things, we're reporting it. So
I think the idea of terrorist has been reported since this incident happened. So I think as the more information comes out, then the media can start making reports. And as we get information, no, I'm saying that you guys shouldn't be making reports or statements concerning that there's a connection to a terrorist group until there is a factual link.
I mean, we're criminal defense attorneys. We look for actual evidence. So we can't jump to conclusions as what we believe. You know.
We listen to what the FBI, because the FBI is gathering evidence.
Yes.
So we have to consider the FBI a credible source.
Right, yeah. I mean, I just think that what we're looking at is, there, like I said, when the FBI chief has literally come out and said that they've found no link to a larger terrorist group or a terrorist cell, I think people need to listen to that and consider that. And every headline, until there is absolute clear evidence, every headline doesn't have to say Muslim massacre or Muslim shooters, because it's going to cause intolerance, and what we need right now is forgiveness. I think although this is, there were Muslim people and Muslim families involved in this incident, and as a primarily Christian nation, I think we're a people of mercy and forgiveness, and I think we need to avoid bigotry, stereotyping. Anything that we would be uncomfortable happening to us as Christians, we should try to avoid doing that to Muslims as well.
Primarily, you're here to criticize some of the reports you've heard that link these acts to terrorism prematurely.
I don't think we're here to criticize. I think
we're here to protect the clients, and they happen to be Muslim, and the Muslim community, and also to stand up for the victims and grieve the victims, and to say, we're remorseful for what took place, and the Muslim community doesn't support or condone what took place. No Muslim does nationwide. Every single Muslim leader has come out and said this is not a Muslim act. When someone goes crazy and commits an act that could totally be work-related, it doesn't make a statement on behalf of an entire religion. We're trying to protect people, and at the same time, we're still in mourning for both the family and the victims, and it was tragic. It's horrible. And we're trying to heal the nation, I think, as a whole.
If the family didn't see any evidence of terrorist sympathies, did they see any evidence of disgruntlement in the workplace, of unhappiness in his life?
There was a mention of where he got teased about his beard, but there was nothing else about that. He usually shrugged off any type of jokes that people might have made about his facial hair or his appearance.
That's what the family said, not what you read.
No, that's what the family said. Yeah.
In your conversations with people you represent, have they mentioned at all that these two people ever discussed ISIS in just a general conversation?
They never did, and that's why we're just making sure that we're not overzealous in our characterization of these events one way or another until strong evidence comes out showing that this was indeed affiliated with something. I guess the frustration comes from we sat through this 4-hour interview with the FBI, and
And the investigation is not done yet. We still have more interviews that we will be conducting with the FBI. And that's why I do caution on making any type of judgment before everything is done.
But also during that the investigation, I would say, we as attorneys, as criminal defense attorneys practicing for 10 years, we're looking for evidence. We're looking for things of substance to substantiate a link or a tie to something, just as the FBI was. And when we sat there for 4 hours, being in that interview with the family members, no one could identify any links or any radical or extremist behavior, any attempt to be forceful or hostile or aggressive in any way to force people to adhere to certain religious beliefs, any odd or strange or angry behavior before the time of the shooting on behalf of the alleged suspects. Nothing was there. So it's not so much I'm siding with one way or the other, but I'm just being objective. That's been my job all these years. And I'm just reporting to you what I've seen during that investigation. There was no evidence of anything. And then what we're hearing now from the media, I'm just saying from an objective perspective, has been very tenuous. So that's my feeling. I don't feel like we ought to be overzealous in our characterization of the event.